Greetings, YouTube. So I've been reading the RPG Net this morning, and it was a thread that deals with a company called Troll Lord Games. And apparently one of their employees made a public statement on their personal Twitter that anti-vaxxers are essentially dangerous and, we should oppose them because they're killing people, um, which is a statement of truth. And this got some people upset because they felt that the person was, as an employee of this company, was that the position of the company. Um, and I have to tell you, if a company disagreed with reality, I don't think I'd want to buy their products, and I know I wouldn't want to work for them. But this began an entire discussion about what is and is not appropriate when it comes to having political discussions. And it brought up the whole apolitical concept. And as a very wise person once said, everything is politics. And one of the posters, someone that going by the handle Frivietti, and is wrote something that I want to read to you, because even though it's game related in some contexts, it is speaking to larger political positions. The issue is, as mentioned above, that what qualifies as political statement varies according to the politics of the person making the decision about what qualifies as a political statement. Right now in the United States, the following could qualify as political statements: asking people not to kill you with a deadly disease, acknowledging that you are gay or trans, raising money for family services charities such as Planned Parenthood, supporting unionizing workers in the RPG industry, saying that you like Twitter, saying that you do not like Twitter, saying that you like Glass Onion. That one confuses me. Giving a land acknowledgement, talking about residential schools genocide, celebrating Martin Luther King Jr. Day, using fictional police in your fantasy RPG, not using fictional police in your fantasy RPG, using fictional police in your fantasy RPG but having them be corrupt, having black people in your fantasy RPG, not having black people in your fantasy RPG, using the word race in your fantasy RPG, not using the word race in your fantasy RPG, including a gay or trans character in your fantasy RPG, not including a gay or trans character in your fantasy RPG. I could go on for a while, but you may notice that as I got further down the list, the number of things that could not be considered political rapidly approached zero. It is not possible to write anything that doesn't include politics. It is only possible to write a thing that doesn't include other people's politics. And that is absolutely one of the best statements I have ever read that encapsulates this entire problem, this entire issue. And I thank them in that thread for having written this, because it was beautifully written. And that is the crux of the issue. Everything is politics. If you say that you're apolitical, you are just making a public statement that you are happy with the status quo. Now, you may not be aware of what the status quo fully entails, but you are aware of some of the status quo because you're happy with it. So you could be a cis white straight guy and you're just happy with things are because none of the policies that are around you are adversely affecting you. You could be genuinely ignorant of the effect that our current society has on women, or on Muslim people, or on gay people, or trans people, or black people, or immigrants. You could be genuinely ignorant of all this, and in America, that's quite possible. But you're saying that you are happy with the status quo. Now, a lot of people aren't ignorant of those things. They know exactly of how those groups I mentioned are being discriminated against, being oppressed, being forced to live their lives on a low volume just to survive. They're trying to sneak under the radar. And those people who say that, well, I'm apolitical, are saying I'm happy with the status quo because they're happy with those people being oppressed. And so if somebody says I'm apolitical, it's very easy to assume that they're the latter as opposed to the former. And if they're the former, they need to be informed. And if they still say they're apolitical after having learned of what that entire statement entails, then you know that they are, in fact, a douche canoe. They have outed themselves as a bigot, as someone that is happy with the status quo because they're at the top and everybody else is below them, and they want it to continue that way. But that is the best definition of why being apolitical is complete and utter bullshit. It always has been and always will be. Because people that say that want their politics discussed. They just don't want to talk about the politics of others. They don't want to acknowledge that others have a political entity, that others may have political aims that are not aligning with theirs. And I have found in my personal experience that most people that take that position are on the right end of the spectrum. I'm not saying that there aren't folks in the left who would like to silence their opponents, but sometimes the things that they're trying to silence are out and out white nationalism. So yes, I will state absolutely directly that I want to silence white nationalists. I want to drive white nationalists back into their closet so deep they find Narnia. I don't want white nationalists in the public sphere. I don't want them to have power. I don't want them to have a political platform. I don't want them to be able to come up forward and say that I'm apolitical because they like the fact that our current system supports white nationalism. So this was beautifully written. I thank Frivietti for having written it. And I think that it really does, at least for me, sum up the entire problem in a very beautiful statement.